I will use them, like say, a short time just to explain again what is the CBER project. Already have the opportunity to speak about the cooperative business and why we called it cooperative business and not particularly cooperatives. But the second part of the title of the project is innovative rural development, and this was something that we decided to include simply because when you speak about cooperatives and when we speak rural development, it is very common to meet the two approaches, like endogenous approach and participatory approach, which are some kind interrelated, and one thing presupposes another. So you cannot have innovative rural development without having the full involvement of the community, of the local community, and of course all the stakeholders responsible for its development. So it's just a very brief geographically explanation on where we are in the map. You know Traki University already, it's in Bulgaria. We have from Bulgaria the Agroconsult Engineering, which is a business company. I already explained that we have chosen a business company as our partner within this project because they perform quite successful and they are very viable in their field, which is to produce, to help producers to develop their own projects within the operational programs of the previous program period, and now in the future, they continue with this, and they are also a very successful business company in the field of poultry. So, this is a company which really knows where to start from and how to contribute to agriculture and to rural areas. Then we have the closest country is Serbia, the ZIP Center. They are a very young incubator, and I think that they are doing quite remarkable work. First of all, because they managed to gain very good support from the municipality, and second of all, because they are very focused on their particular region and the area. Until recently, I was just checking the news about the incubator. They're incubating auto school at the moment, so this is maybe their newest project. And then if we go to the west side of the Europe, we have from Italy the European Research Institute on Cooperative and Social Enterprises, which are I may say pioneers in the field of social entrepreneurship in Italy and not only. Then we have the colleagues from Spain, the University of Almeria, and one of our key business partners, which is the COEXPAL, a very stable and very huge producer organization. Further, I will explain about it. And last but not least, we have the University College of Cork from the Ireland. So these are the countries which somehow we managed to develop something in common, to gather our interests. From one side, we as Bulgaria, as a new country member, with all the problems we have, I have introduced you within the last 2 days. And then we have partners, countries with very well developed cooperative movement and very well established relationship within the field of the rural and regional development. So why the concept rural development is included? Because it is first of all very much exploited in the political documents and all the programs for development of the regions. And I'm sure that you're very well aware of the concept of rurality. And maybe just very briefly to mention that sometimes this rural development is mixed as a concept with the agricultural development and regional development, which sometimes are overlapping, but I mean, it's, for example, if we're talking about the agricultural development, it is included in the rural development, while the regional development is something more broader as a concept. The main thing is that we have the opportunity to listen and to read that the most important things on which is the political strategies and all the approaches undertaken is to secure this integrated mechanism for rural development. That is why usually you have as a constant parameters, the social, the environmental, and the economic components of this development. And therefore, the rural development is so dependent on, first of all, the external factors, the things, the context that presupposes and predefines the development in certain countries, and also the participation of the local communities. That is why I may say, for example, in the countries where local communities are more aware of their civil participatory role and the way they have to respond to the decision-making process, the rural development is in a way more advanced, more well-organized. So we also choose rural areas because you know the statistics that the rural areas are predominantly in the European Union. Just the fact that 92% of the European territory are rural areas, and the predominantly rural are 56%, so it's quite a huge percent. And I may say that in the countries which we include in the seabird, most of the territory is rural areas. Here I have prepared some slides which relate to the way rural areas across Europe are divided in connection to their economic, social development, also the level of the environmental policy and the way it is operationalized in particular activities. I found a very interesting quote in 2009 where it is written that rural poverty is practically non-existent in the northern part of Europe, and unfortunately I couldn't find something similar for the 2013, for example, but I think that the statistics slightly changed this statement. So to proceed with each country included in the project, I would like to show you the map of the rural areas in Bulgaria. We are around 83% of the territory of Bulgaria are rural areas, which as a number of municipalities, 231, of which around 70 as a number are municipalities that have development above the average level in the country. So the remainder are encountering different problems which consist of like educational level, the employment level, the depopulation, the way the economic sectors behave in these areas. Of course, we have problems like a low degree of socialization of the economic growth, which reflects and has as a result increasing degree of social polarization. It's very interesting to see the two opposite sides. I mean, for example, you can see very poor people and then something very luxury which somehow doesn't fit to the entire situation and the entire picture. And of course, this does not contribute to the poverty reduction. I already mentioned that this is a phenomenon that has the ability to reproduce through the generation, and it's very sad. Even now, at the moment, I listened to the news this morning that a lot of villages in my region are flooded, and most of the people are saying that there is nobody here to help us. I mean, we are all alone, and the pictures and the videos were quite sad to see that it's really happening, and it didn't look like a very rich region. I mean, it was like a very poor village, completely destroyed. So yes, that is why we focus on these problems, because the rural areas have a lot of problems to deal with, and we really know that the Seabird as a project, which is like half theoretical, half practical, could contribute to this. I mean, of course, we are supposed to do research, and we can bring as a product a lot of theoretical reports and publication, but also the truth is that something needs to be done, and unless we don't really manage to attract the attention of the authorities and companies and various stakeholders that could contribute to some change, nothing will happen. I mean, maybe in the next 4 years I will be here again talking about the same things with some slight changes. So this is why we decided to do things in a different way. How do we found the situation in Bulgaria as a map of development of rural areas? This is why we called it this way, because we tried to generalize all the stakeholders that have the possibility, the opportunity to contribute to the rural development. Of course, you have the single producers and the small and medium enterprises as a key unit. I mean, something which is the starting point. And then if we go further, we have the cooperatives, and we have the producer organizations that need to be developed. I already told you that we have only one producer organization in Bulgaria. The associations are something that are present. We have associations that represent the interests of the agricultural producers, different type of production. So, I mean, this is something which is developed. And they more or less managed to establish the link between the producers or the companies with the legal authorities, more or less to represent the interests and, if possible, to influence and be part of the decision-making process. One thing that is still in process is the leader program. The local action groups in Bulgaria are like reached the moment when they have to establish their strategies, but then it was very difficult to finance the idea, although they have various types of partners included in these local action groups. More or less, the result was that the municipalities end up with certain costs they already made, but no clarity who is going to cover these costs and how they will sustain further their activity they have started. More or less, they also try in some way to help the local people to make their ideas, their plans a reality. I mean, they do have this as an opportunity, but still in a quite modest way. So more or less, this is the horizontal and vertical dimensions of the mapping of rural areas in Bulgaria. Of course, this map is going to be improved through our work with the stakeholders mentioned here, but this is probably the first version of this map, which yes, it surely will be developed in certain time. Then these are some photos from our study visits. We managed to attract the attention of several municipalities in rural areas, so we already did this, and I may say that their approach was very open toward us, and I think that maybe this will be a good start of cooperation. So the idea was to show to our foreign researchers what we have and what should be done. So it was very interesting process of showing people and the discussions. For example, do we have social enterprise in Bulgaria? It's maybe something that we could discuss is that the colleagues from Juliana said that in Bulgaria social economy was very influenced by the American concept for social economy, while the European context is a little bit different than what is developed as a framework. And when you ask there's a certain organization in my hometown, they're Samaritans and they're a social enterprise, but they say, no, we are not a social enterprise. This activity is our social enterprise. The reminder is something which is related to the association. So it was like a 4 hours discussion. Are we or not a social enterprise? So it's very fun because I heard the colleagues from the institute to say, we never see something like this because usually organizations that pretend to be a social enterprise, they said, yeah, we are authentic of social enterprise and this one is a real social enterprise example. They said, no, we are not. So it's very, very mixed up concept of what we are, what we do, and at the end, whether this is really important, because if it is working, then don't call the exact names if you need to put it in a legal framework, but then nothing will change in the concept of the way the organization is working. So further going, I put this here because there was a topic in the program about the role of the small farms and the way the cooperatives contribute to the preservation of the family farms in the rural areas. I have the statistics, it's not very well visible, but I have to tell you that through the years, in certain countries, starting from 2005 up to now, the number of the family farms has slightly decreased. While in some countries, for example, like in Spain or in Italy, this decrease is not that visible, which means that the family farms are stable enough to contribute first of all to their own sustainability and then to perform efficiently within the rural development idea. And well, in Bulgaria, the number of the family farms have decreased like around 30%, which is quite huge. The good news is that the land that was worked on, the arable land, did not decrease. Which meant that probably partially this land went to the cooperatives or to some other types of organization forms. I have here some slides about Serbia. I already mentioned that we are very common in terms of first of all cooperative movement, and second of all problems that have been detected within the rural areas. Again, rural areas are very closely related to agriculture, and again the level of unemployment is certainly high percentage, and also the rural poverty is a very common problem that the colleagues and the people from Serbia encounter. And still also this diversity in terms of developmental level, whether it's an urban area or in the people who are living in the peripheral areas. So this was certainly something to start from when we were trying just to detect what are the problems that we have to summarize at the end common for the countries. With Bulgaria and Serbia, it was very easy to match the similarities. Unfortunately, it's not very visible because it should be animated. So now you see the whole pictures. This is my first slide. It was supposed to be my first slide for Cynthia, which is the presentation for Italian partner. So I had the opportunity to study the agricultural cooperatives in Trentino, and they are, I think, the engine of the rural development in these areas. First of all, because rural area again is very closely related to agriculture, and second of all, there is a statistic that the organizational level in Trentino is almost 100%. And we are talking about very huge cooperatives that comprise of very small farmers. I mean, I'm talking about farmers from 1 hectare and a little bit more up. And one cooperative could comprise of, let's say, 1,000 to 1,500 members. And the way these cooperatives have developed through the years have managed to contribute, in my opinion, in a very stable way to rurality. First of all, because they preserve the geographical memory and they preserve this advantage, for example, the production of wine or the production of apple have in Trentino. And I want you to pay attention to the picture. I don't know whether you can see it very well. The one which is on the right side. This is not a theater. This is like a very big building. And here the General Assembly of Mezzocoron, which is a cooperative, is gathering. So it looks like a performance, very big performance hall. So I mean, it's amazing to see this place. And I may say that they are very flexible in respect to Mezzocoron because they have managed to develop production in one way, which is the cooperative. But you know, this is a very big cooperative with a very big export. So they organize an export within like a daughter company established from the cooperative. So from one way they are very competitive on the market and they have this flexibility that a company could have. And from the other, they care for the producers and for preserving the geographical component in their trademark through organizing the production of the grape in the cooperative. Further, there are some photos from Sant'Orsola, which is for very small fruits, and also from Melinda. It's very interesting organization. They have cooperatives, they have second-level cooperative consortia, and they further continue to merge and to be represented by association of the cooperatives within Trentino Alto Adige. Something which is very important, and they have managed to understand and to do this in reality, is that the research, the university is always present when it comes to cooperative development or to the work of the companies which are in rural areas. In the meaning that, for example, they organize like meetings with the producers. Eurixe has as members cooperatives, so they keep in touch and they really know what are the problems of the cooperatives within their region. So there's a very well established network between cooperatives, producers cooperatives, second-level cooperatives, research centers, university, province also. So this is something which is very well organized, and you can see it. I mean, without speaking, once you go there, you just see that something is working in the right way. So everything is working like a very well developed mechanism, and every type of organization has its own place in this cluster approach. This is some photos, and over there are our colleagues, the Serbian partners and the partners from Eurixe. This is during their study visits in September in Italy, and I think it was quite valuable for them to meet and to see what is really happening in this region. Almeria, this is the fourth region, and it's a very interesting region because, if I'm not wrong, the total size of the greenhouses in Almeria is visible from the space. I mean, the greenhouses is around 29,000 hectares or something. And when we had the researchers from Almeria coming to Bulgaria, they were like, wow, you have so many green areas, you have rivers, and wow, I mean, it was, I spent 1 month in Almeria, and when we crossed the country and they were saying, on your left is the river, and I was thinking, oh my god, I don't see any river. So, I mean, the colleague said, don't worry, I mean, I lived here for 10 years and I realized that the water is underneath, so it's like, no, but it's really amazing because this was a quite poor region, absolutely with limited water resources, with limited options to produce. So what they started is to build greenhouses. So you can see a very modest greenhouses, or you can see greenhouses in a very modern way. And they produce mostly tomatoes. They export around 30% of the. Their export represents 30% in the European Union of the tomato market. So what was the important thing is, like, again, there was very well established relationship between, you have producers are organized within cooperatives. Cooperatives are different types because there are, of course, two types of development of the rurality. I mean, you have the agricultural sector, but you have also tourism because they are on the sea, so they have very nice resorts. Then they have the producers' organization and options. It's not a matter of whether they have a producer or not, it's how many they have, because everybody is organized within something. If it is a producer organization, whether it's a cooperative, or whether it's a, I think it was social agrarian transformation company or something. This is something in between cooperative and a company. So in case you don't want to be a cooperative, like the idea of the cooperative, you can organize within this legal form, which was established in 1982. So yes, they have the producer organizations and they have auctions, which is the option of the producers to sell by themselves, I mean, without having the producer in between them and the final customer. But the people prefer producer organization, mainly because if you sell through producer organizations, it means that the quality is checked and that your production is more valuable. I mean, otherwise, if you go on the auction, you can sell it anyway by the end of the day. Research institutions, I mean, it was amazing because they are working very closely with various research institutions. Even Coexpo has financed a department in the University of Almeria, so they are really aware of the fact that they have to work very closely. And it's not only because they need to do research in the field of development patterns of the producer organizations of the cooperatives, or pest control, pest analysis, seeds. So it's very even the design of the greenhouses, the new design of the greenhouses was made thanks to a research institute in Almeria. And of course they have agricultural unions and sector associations. Cynthia is one of the researchers who is working on the family farms and the cooperatives, and she has a very interesting theory which I have to share with you instead of her. So it was like that cooperatives is a way whereby family farms could sustain their viability. I mean, they are still a family farm, they have their individual development, but once entering into the cooperative, they are more like having the vision for the future development and more secure. And I want to show you some pictures. I don't know whether you can see it very well, but on the left is a greenhouse, and you see that it's not very modern, but still it's quite efficient. And then you see how it looks like outside the greenhouse. It's like a desert, it's a sand. And this is inside a producer organization where they sort the tomatoes. And this is us on the left. By this time it was around 12 o'clock, it was 39 degrees, so it was very, 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 very hot. So I mean, these are tomatoes in the baskets. And yes, it was very interesting just to see that the organization is very well, the organization of from the producer to the supermarket and I mean to the final customer is very well organized. And last but not least, unfortunately I didn't still have the time to visit Cork. My colleagues were there from Agriconsult and they have managed to have some certain meetings with local action groups because the colleague from the University of Cork is a very good specialist in the development of leader program and the local action groups. So they have quite a big influence towards the rural development in Cork. And of course, you see that also the agriculture and the agricultural cooperatives play a significant role in this development. And I put this one as the end of my presentation. I don't know whether you agree with this, but I really like that doing the same tasks over and over again and expecting different results is the definition of insanity. So what we will try to do is to do something different, prove that we are not crazy and just that we could make the difference from the things that really could change the situation, not only in my country, but more or less in the countries with which we are working for. So thank you for your attention.